Hey guys, welcome back inside the stash. We're doing another little bench update since we have been chug-a-lug-a-lugging 5 miles an hour on this kit. Basically working mostly on the BMW Z4. It is Wednesday, the 27th of March. Show season starts in 3 days. So what we have going on with the Z4 project at this point is that we have the body in primer, which I know it's molded in white, so like who could tell the difference, right? But the body is in primer. It's all ready to go for paint. As soon as I shut the camera off and put this into rendering, it's going to be in paint. Gotta take that flying leap of faith and try to paint the thing. I only say that because the primer coat came out really well, so here's hoping the paint cooperates as much. Basically, what I'm trying to do with this in terms of getting it somewhat done um, is I'm not totally sure I am going to go to the IPMS show on Saturday. Mostly, I don't want to say financing, like, oh my God, I'm so broke, GoFundMe, but I had to go in and get my state inspection done. If you live in a state, here mostly, mostly in the Northeast, I'm gonna or mid-Atlantic states have state inspections you have to do every year. I have a fairly new truck, so it wasn't any like, oh, the brakes are shot and this, that, and the other thing, but the factory tires were ready to go in the front, and so pretty much my budget for doing fun stuff outside of work and things like that got eaten up by a new set of front tires and a front end alignment and the actual state inspection itself and everything else. So I have to go out Saturday night to go. I assume we actually haven't gotten a notification one way or another about that, but I'm sure we'll get an email this week about setting the room up on Saturday night so we don't have to show up at like 4 in the morning on Sunday to try to put the room together before our show on Sunday in Castle Shannon. Usually for the last, well, I've been part of the club now for 4.5 years, I think it is. Might be 5 at this point because I joined right after the show 5 years ago. It was like the meeting after the show I joined. So we did one show at Castle Shannon. We've done one show at Broughton. No show because we couldn't find a hall because Castle Shannon was closed. Went back to Castle Shannon, and then this will be our second year back at Castle in the remodeled Castle Shannon Volunteer Fire Department hall. So yeah, I guess actually no, I've been been a member for 5, almost 6 years at this point. So back in the same place. We know how to get the room set up. We can get in there at 6:30. We're usually at the door by like 7:30, 7:45, maybe 8 o'clock on the outside because it's for us at this place. It's set up as a bingo hall. Good Catholic people love our bingos, and we just have to go through basically pick up all the chairs and then rearrange the tables a little bit. So picking up the chairs probably takes more time than anything. You guys who do shows, you know how that works. Because you got to put the hall back the way it was when it's over, and usually I skip out on that because that if you don't want to come in and set the room up, you get to put the room back together afterwards. I'll come in early and set the tables up. So that's going on. They said the IPMS show, the Tricon here in Pittsburgh, is Saturday up at the AW Beatty Career Center or Beatty Career Center up in Allison Park, which is a northern suburb of Pittsburgh. Certainly not. I know a lot of car guys are IPMS, but they really do want to get their car numbers up. So, and they do the Dallas, Austin, Chicago, whatever town that it is cool to say it is from this go around. I believe Austin is the originator of the gold, bronze, silver, or gold, silver, bronze judging, where you're judged against the IPMS building criteria rather than head-to-head competition with anybody else. I think that gives you, so long as the judging itself is done in a reasonably sincere fashion, if you will, I think it gives you a really good idea of how your build really is. I know a lot of people like to out there like to throw a couple $100 for the photo etch and wiring and stuff, and then glaze it in donut glaze and be all like, ooh, shiny, wiry, blingy, and expect that to get them awards. And I guess in a People's Choice or best of or non-judge competition, that tends to work. But to me, the IPMS guidelines are a fairly good set to go by. I know a lot of people will gripe that they're too technical in the sense of they want you to actually build a good model versus throwing a bunch of crap at it. And I've always been of the judgment, even though I'm not an actual IPMS member, either locally or nationally, that having a technically sound model is more important to me than having a blinged out, fancy pantsy kind. But to each their own. Not going to knock anybody's build style, just my personal preference. So, like I said, we've been working on the Z4 a little bit. Got the body and primer probably Monday or Sunday night, I think it was. At this point, I'm looking at the parts on the table here. I need to paint the little the little exhaust cans that stick out the back. This is your exhaust system, this little piece here. It is nice because it is hollow. I don't know how well that's going to show up, but so I'm going to paint the actual exhausts probably a bronzish color because they appear to be almost like a rusty iron in pictures of this car specifically. I'm sure it's probably more of a heat staining over like a stainless steel that's just old because this car got used a couple times. But I'm going to paint the actual little parts that you see and then the background around it, sort of a bronzish color. And I'm going to go with a gunmetal in the actual inside of the exhaust to give it a little bit of depth. And then I have to paint the windshield wipers and I have to paint the grills, the actual kidney grills. So that's really pretty much it for things I have to paint. I need to put a second coat of paint on these little doodads here, which are the they mount into the underside of the hood. They're basically the top of the cooling for the engine. If you go, oh, there's a chip missing out of your paint. No, that's just where I was holding on to it because where that little outline is, whoops, there's a piece of hair. Too many cats. Where this outline is on the part, it's where it meets. That's the mounting surface. So you'll never see that. So I want to paint that again. Another coat of paint on that because it's literally just one coat of Tamiya's metallic gray, which is their steel color. And then I'll wash it, give it a little bit of depth, and that'll be done. They mount into these little cans here that attach to the bottom side of the car itself. This device. Which one of these I picked up so I could stick it in here and give you an idea. Hopes. Oh well, dang it. And that is, as I've been joking with my friends, what I expect to happen with this build now. It's getting into the completion stages, and I'm starting to like drop stuff, paint side down, and stuff like that. And it's not like nerves or anything else like that. It's just that I am a big ham-fisted moron when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I haven't really built a model in like a year and a half. So my fine motor skill coordination is not exactly the greatest thing. Plus, Fujimi likes to give you like, hey, this goes into this area, and we've indented a very tiny line. You see I'm still fighting, trying to get this thing to sit in here well enough for me to hold up to the camera. We give you these tiny little indentations that this is going to fit into, and once you get it into the indentation, oh, it's super duper fantastic, but getting it there is going to be a trip and a half. This thing's still sitting there spinning around. But anyway, that's the idea. Like, there's the one you can see through, like on the right, or will be your right, my left. Oh well, whatever. And then on the other side, you see that little black area. That's the air intake itself. And then down there where my thumb is, because you can see my thumb through it still, that'll be where that little grill goes. So it's just a little depth, to the build itself in the sense of having that piece in there. Gives you a little visual something to sort of show that that's not just a vast hole into the chassis pan, basically. I'm going to take this camera and sort of chip her up over here. There we go. And we turn this light on, get a better look at that. We can get this to, well, not so much focus on that. Tommy bottle. But this is pretty much the rest of the pieces for it. You have the mirrors here. I think somewhere, Instagram or just on my Facebook page, I went ahead and showed those mirrors along with their with the rear view mirror compatriot of it. But these are just painted in semi-gloss black. I'm pretty sure they're carbon fiber in real life, but I don't have any carbon fiber outlines for them, and right now I don't have any spare carbon fiber decals to put on them. But the mirror face inside of there is just a piece of black piece of plastic. They weren't chromed for whatever reason, and so the mirrors on this, as well as the mirror face on the rear view mirror, which also is just a kit piece without any kind of backing on it, are Maltel, however you want to pronounce the pens. These are sort of the rear brake ducts. Those are the hood pieces. This little piece here that's sort of out of focus and everything else, I'm sticking on my finger, is the sort of the third brake light. So that the only thing you're ever going to see of this when it comes through is the actual like red part. The entire white part of that is just backing. It's literally the part that you use to insert it into the model. So that's why the paint's all kind of sloppy on it, because once it goes in there, the only thing you're going to see is through the outline. I'll show you the body here in a second. So that's just Tamiya X11 silver paint with clear red over top of it. The taillights are ready to go. You have to mask that line on the bottom. I am thrilled that I managed to mask both the taillights off in a way that they're even. There's a vague ghosted outline of where the line should be, but it's not very prominent. And, you know, you're kind of eyeballing it based on pictures and based on the way the instructions show you. But it came out well. Here's the rear wing strut. There's going to be a piece of carbon fiber that will wrap this entire middle piece. So that'll be all nice and neat. And then this, of course, is the wing. It has a little chip out of the paint on the upper edge there because I sanded out a little booger. And then the bottom has the part where I had it taped. Not a big deal because, again, there's going to be carbon fiber on the bottom, there's going to be carbon fiber on the top, and then there's going to be carbon fiber on the actual wing-lit edges. So that'll be tomorrow's project, pretty much. I have the canards in paint. They'll need another coat of paint because I want to make sure that the part that isn't covered in a carbon fiber decal looks good. And then I have the front and the rear splitters painted. They're ready to go. They're going to get decaled today, hopefully. There isn't a lot of carbon fiber for the rear end of this car, thankfully. It's not one of the ones that has every single little weather vane on the carbon fiber painted, or a carbon fiber done like a lot of them are. It's just basically a piece across the very back. And this right here, I'm going to show you this little piece right here, this little hole. That's where that third brake light, if you will, sticks out. So literally all you see is what shows through that little slit. It's kind of, and I've seen some people like get really into painting that for some reason. It's like, yeah, you know, no offense, but you're literally never going to see that again. And I know there's a lot of people out there that, and again, not to knock anybody's build style, but that paint, that do a lot of work because they know it's there. And I have done that myself. I'm perfectly honest with you. I have suffered from that as well. But I find as the intake of the stash gets ever larger, it gets very hard to be like, hey, you know, I want to minutely do every little doodad and ding-dong for everything. So the other thing I want to show you today is this. This is the inner bed liner, if you will, for the Nissan Sunny pickup truck. This is 5 pieces that on the outside of it, I was like, Jesus, this is going to be a mess trying to get this together. I built some Hasegawa kits, but they're all from the 1990s. I haven't built one of the new tool ones. This, of course, is one of the newer tool ones. This is the first issue of the Sunny pickup truck. They came out in 2013 or 2014, and it's a very, very nicely engineered contraption system to get this to go together. If you happen to have one of these Nissan Sunny kits, and this is going to be my advice column for the afternoon, and you're trying to get this together, my solution to this and what I did with this was to take it on its end, because this bottom is its own piece, and then each of the 4 walls are a piece, and they all like it's. If you see if I can get it together here, they like interlock. You see there's pieces, this little tab here interlocks the back, and you have these little tabs here that interlock the front edge of the, the front edge of the, that's really being a sack of crap. Let's see, what do I need to block to get this to focus? There we go. Those little tabs there help attach the sides to the front. And you could probably see, if I can get it to refocus, that I basically just welded this thing together with as we cool kids like to call it, TET, which is to me extra thin. Because once this is all together, this fits up inside the body. Basically, the Nissan Sunny pickup truck is an El Camino, right? It's Nissan Sunny was a coupe and a station wagon that they made into a pickup truck. So all this inner wall area is going to go inside the actual. Let me grab the body. Ugh. It's going to go up inside, the actual bed itself. It actually ends up sitting. It's almost easier to put this thing in to drop fit it in from the top than it is to go for the bottom, because this thing ends up sitting about like that much. It has a lip. It ends up sitting up above the pickup bed. I realize that was totally pointless, but I don't want to shove this in here. It's going to take too long to get it to sit back inside there. There are a whole bunch of punch outs on this wall. Look at that focusing on my hat so well, but not on this. A whole bunch of mold, of ejector pins on here. Now this makes the rear of the pickup, the rear of the inside wall, basically. This is, being a 1960s vehicle, sheet metal, ooh la la. And I gotta admit, at this point, I just don't care. The seats are gonna be sitting in front of this, and you're never gonna see it. And I can't be bothered, because there are, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 ejector pin marks on the back wall here. That's a lot of ejector pin marks. Some of them are bigger than others. Some of them are more easy to see than others. But again, when this thing is all together and put together, you're not going to see them. And I have come to sort of a agreement within my head that I always say that I do, but sometimes I don't do, coherently. And that is, I just build things, and if they happen to be show worthy, I take them and show them. Trying to build specifically with the idea of going to shows, I'm just not I can't. I kind of do it, Captain. It just is not something that ends up working for me. Yep, somebody's trying to IM me. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it, now I'm inserting this pickup truck bed in here so you guys can see what it looks like, because that's just the kind of guy I am. And it's all very cool. It's all very, very, there. This is what it looks like installed. So it sits up a little bit. It has a little bit, like the inner side of the pickup rail sits up a little bit. There you see probably someday, if the camera could ever focus on more than just the Ferraris or the Lamborghinis in the background. There's a whole bunch of little indentations along the side here where a bunch of tie downs go in. So those in and of themselves will help hold the bed up, because those tie downs will keep the bed from dropping sort of south. And yes, that little gap there behind the window is supposed to be there. Like there's a little ridge there. That is how the real pickup truck sits. It has that's legitimately correctly fit there. You can see the indentations there for all the little tie downs that go on the side of there. I believe those are technically optional, because the actual box art vehicle doesn't have that. And there's a little bit of wiggle and free play in this thing when it sits just in there, but it's not going to come out. And then when you put the actual chassis on here, which may or may not be something that's around. Yeah, there we go. When you put the actual chassis in here, there are a set of indentations on the very back of the chassis, which may or may not kind of sort of be seeable there. And you put this whole thing together, and the edge of the bed, the edge of the frame rail locks into little pins that are molded into the back of the body's tailgate, and then there's a set of ridges on the front that catch the front half. And when that thing is in there, because I had this all together last night on the live stream, it's like rock solid. It is ridiculously well engineered, to the point where you don't need to glue this bed. One of my concerns was like, how do I glue this bed in without getting sort of a squish through, if you will. Like, it's one thing to weld this bed together with, to me, extra thin, because you're never going to see the glue marks, right? It's kind of a sort of like the idea of how aircraft builders build aircraft, where when they're joining either the fuselage or they're joining the wing roots or whatever together, they tend to just slather the thing with to me, extra thin, or with the methyl ethyl ketone, the mech glue, which is what the to me extra thin is made out of. Because they're going to go in and they're going to sand and reshape the wing edges and reshape the fuselage, and they're going to work out that seam to, you know, where you're not going to see the glue joint anymore. And a lot of people, myself included, will use, to me, extra thin in that we're going to join two halves of an engine together. We'll put it on the outside of the sort of paint the outside of the seam, because it fuses the plastic together. That's the whole point of model cement like that. And we can go back in and sand that joint smooth, and it effectively reduces the use of putty and things like that. Now, it won't work on giant gaps or filling holes or anything like that, but welding two pieces of plastic together, that is an amazingly effective thing. And so, like on this, you know, this is legitimately all you're ever going to see of the bottom of that assembly is this. Like, you can't really, you get the inner fender wells, but you're never going to see like the sides of the bed. Even if anyone was ever going to pick it up, which of course they're not going to, because, you know, what kind of rude person are you that just randomly grabs people's models and starts looking at them? But I sat down with this last night, and because I painted as much stuff as I could paint on the Z4 on camera, because I didn't want to fire the paint booth up. It was midnight, and I don't want to wake my family up to paint the body. But so I started fiddling around with this, and I looked at the bed, and I was like, man, that's not going to go together. It doesn't look good. And then what I started to say is, you take one of the sides of the bed, and just with a little bit of whatever cement you want to use, but I use too many extra thin. To me, is what works best for this kind of thing. And you just firmly get one part of that side in, because it has two notches that fit into the notches on the bottom of the bed. Put one of those notches in there, hold it tight, and just tack in that corner with the extra thin. Let it set up, and then just go down the side of the bed, tack in the other corner with it, and then I tack the back on, I tack the second side on, and then I put the front on, and then when I folded the front together, I just put, you know, glue down the seam of the front of the bed and the side rails where they went together, and then I specifically, you know, I lined the bed up to make sure it was all of the rails of the bed were all aligned, and then I went back and I, you know, tacked all of that together, and it's a very, very solid unit. I wouldn't want to drop it on the floor necessarily to prove a point, but it's a very solid piece, and it's, like I said, it's just very well engineered, because it doesn't really explain very well how you get this in here like this, because it's like, put it in from the bottom and stuff like that, and it was just like not working the way I wanted it to, until I realized that it actually has to come up through the body, so that it sits like there's some pieces that are molded into the side of the bed, the inner bed, that go over some indentations that are on the inside of the body, and you really can't see them when you just are looking at it. It's when you put the unit together, you're like, oh, well, that, you can feel like things slide and click together, and you're like, oh, okay, that's where that needs to be. And like I said, once you put the chassis little frame thing in here, it holds the whole thing together amazingly well. Like, you could legitimately not glue the bed in here. And again, then you have to worry about what the glue seams look like, because there will be no glue seams. This thing has like bottom of an engine insert that sort of fits up here through there and whatnot. We talked about this when we were doing sort of the idea behind it. This whole thing needs to be painted white, because the body and everything's going to be white on this. It's going to look like the box art. And then the interior builds off of the bottom of the platform here. You can sort of see where the seat markers are. I'm going to probably, just because I don't want to look at those injector pins very much. Now, there is a piece that goes over, like, you see there's like injector pins on the center console type thing there. There is a piece that goes over that, so you're not going to see those. The ones on the floor, I probably will flock the floor just to get those big 8 ejector pins you can see. I'm not going to really pay that much attention to it to make it like super duper neat, because again, you'll never see the floor. But I just really don't want to look in there, and I'm pretty sure that a couple of those you'll be able to see just glances through the window. I guess that's pretty much it. I'm umming and ahhing, mainly because in the back of my mind, I'm like, paint the body. Because my plan is I'm going to paint the body right now. I'm going to give it 24 hours to dry, and assuming the paint doesn't like goof up, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop if things have been moving too smoothly. And then wait 24 hours for the paint to dry, and then I'm going to mask off the front window surrounds, because these A-pillars need to be black, along with the sort of the part where the windshield wipers mount into. Of course, this whole front area here has to be as a grill, and this whole area back here is a grill as well. So I'm going to give it 24 hours to dry, and then I'm going to mask off those areas, and then I'm going to get the airbrush out. And I'm going to go ahead and airbrush all that stuff, because rattle canning it would be out of the question to me. And then once that stuff is done, I want to give it another 24 hours to dry. You know, I'll unmask it so I don't deal with like peeling the paint back off when it's dry or anything like that. But I want to let that stuff dry for another 24 hours. That way the body basically has had 2 days to dry. We'll go over it real quick and see what we need to do in terms of doing any kind of fixing. Like, this has a really nice smooth satiny finish right now. I know Andrew Styrene told me just to clear coat the primer, which if I wanted a shiny thing would be sincerely an option with this, with the way with the primer sitting right now. But I want a shiny race car, but not a. I want a glossy race car, but not a shiny race car, if that makes sense. Race cars, especially GT3 cars, tend to go down, be handed down and things like that. So they're not always brand new. You see a lot, especially stuff like the Gia Macau stuff, or cars that ran in Europe and then ran in Japan. Those are hand-me-down cars. They already ran entire seasons in overseas, and then they went to another race. I don't think Team Italia's car, or Roll Motorsports is what this is, Team Italia now. Roll Motorsports cars were hand-me-down. I think they bought that car legitimately, but by the time I got to Monza, it's like 6 races into the season, and so, or 4 races in the season. So it's not like, ooh, super duper shiny. And the car was never, and those cars really never were super duper shiny. I thought I got a pretty good finish on the McLaren MP412C. I had some people tell me that, like, they don't think I could do a shiny paint job because I didn't, like, shiny up that car a lot. And it was like, well, that was not the point. The point of that car is it's gloss black. It's not waxed showroom finish black. It's just glossy black. You're gonna put a car that costs $250,000 basically, because these are customer race cars. They sell them as kits basically. There's a great video out there on YouTube somewhere. I can't remember if it's titled like 1-1 model kit, or if that's just how somebody sent it to me, of a team building a Z4. And it comes in a couple of great big shipping containers, and you put the thing together. Like, it's a great big 1-to-1 scale model kit. It is not a rolling. I mean, they offer, if you want to pay extra money, they offer turnkey racing platforms. But for most teams, they have shops and can do that sort of thing. They are building kit cars basically of these things. And so, you're painting it to look nice, but you're not like, Gustav, go buff the paint out on our Z4 before we decal it. So, so fingers crossed the spider monkeys of paint don't come raining down upon me today, and we get a nice finish that doesn't have too many boogers in it. Some stuff that could just be sanded out with 12,000 maybe. Because really what I'd like to do with this body in its entirety is give it a 12,000 go over to sort of smooth any boogers out of the paint and give it a nice little bit of a gloss sheen to it, and then go in with a polishing compound and polish the paint out and get it to be, a glossy, but again, not shiny paint job. And then poof, into decaling we go. Because everything else about this, other than, like I said, the exhaust, the windshield wipers, and the grills, is done and painted, and just pieces that need to be carbon fiber. But we can do that while paint's drying today. We can do that while paint's drying tomorrow. And I hopefully have set this up for myself in a sense where I haven't forgotten anything major and stupid. Because when I built the 12C, I was still actually decaling that car at like 3:30 in the morning to leave to go to Columbus, Ohio at like 6. My thought is, if I can't get this thing like done, like where I'm actually, oh yeah, snap, gorgeous, I'd like to get it assembled. I'll get the carbon fiber done on the canards and the splitters and the wings and all that sort of thing. I'll put the P0 logo, the Pirelli logos on the tires. And then I will take it to our show, because again, we can't enter our own show. I'll take it to our show as just on our show table of our club's work, and I will bring it back from the show Sunday, and then I fly out to Minnesota on Monday for work. But when I get back from that, there is a model contest on the 12th of April. We showed it to you in that one out of the box where we did all the flyers for the Stark scale modelers, I think is what it's called. That is over in Massillon or by Canton, which for me, again, is like a 2-hour drive one way. And that will be our debut for it if we don't go to the PMS contest this weekend. So, and that again assumes that it turns out well. It could always just be a huge botch job and just something I show you guys when it's done, and then it never sees the light of day again, like the Watson's BMW 318. So, anyway, I blathered on for long enough. It is time to fire up the office back there and hold our nose and paint the body. See you guys on the other side.